Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Red Sea podcast. Welcome back to another edition of a weekend recap, a Monday recap, call it as you wish, where we have everything Olympiacos to talk about as we witnessed another very interesting weekend, to say the least. But before we get into that, I have some things to quickly get over for those of you that are listening now, or for those of you that are listening whenever afterwards on whichever platform. If you're new and we finally hit 450 on YouTube, so I'm very happy for that, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And that milestones are honestly never stopping. And as mind blowing as it is to me, I couldn't be happier. And for those of you, as I said, that are new, the solo shows are always open line, as you are welcome to drop any comment you want. Of course, English, Greek, that's not limited to anything. You can drop whatever comments in whichever language. You can also copy this link right here, that's in the comments, send that right over to Google and join me live to drop your opinions about whichever topic you want. So, since we have quite a few things to talk about, and I really don't want to tire you all, given it is a Sunday evening tonight now, as of the time of recording. Let's start with not this one. Let's start with our academies in football. Of course, as you all have probably seen, and even for those of you that have not seen, it was a very, very pleasant and quite a revealing weekend for Olympiacos' academies, as they all came out with a win, well, except the B team, but we'll get into that. The under 15s won 2-1 against Offi. The under 17s got a historic 4-0 victory, and the under 19s got a very, very comfortable 1-3 victory. Of course, the B team sadly lost to newly promoted and officially champions Kalamata, but there is really no complaints to really go and pull from the B team, from what they did this year. And I'm sure that as the summer passes and as Coach Rubio gets a full season to his name with the B team, I'm sure it will be an even more perfect and well worked platform up to the mainstream. But in regards to academies, I want to give my credit to two people specifically, and two players that have been more than impressive. Two players, if you haven't actually noticed them, do please go do so. Go in general. I know that there isn't an ample amount of coverage on the academies. That's why I want to include as much as I do with the Erasitexni. I want to include academy coverage as well, because the boys deserve to have the spotlight on them. And the two names that I want to mention today is Moisiadis, the man that scored a hat-trick for our under-17s, and the 17-year-old fullback Skiosios that got a hat-trick of assists, with the latter, of course, being one of our youngest participants of the team at just 17, and the latter also being part of a very specific group of players, having appeared in the UEFA Youth League for the first time at just the age of 15. Moi still needs quite a bit of time, in my opinion, given that we are talking about the under 17s. But with the rise that Kyrgios is having, and with the situation that's surrounding the fullbacks in the men's team, I am gonna throw his name out there in hopes for him to get his first team opportunity as early as, why not, this preseason. And I'm sure that he will completely ball out, he will completely show up and show off his abilities, because he's been more than impressive ever since a very, very young age. And along with players like Milicic, like Petros Kolokotronis, like Eric Hamza, there is a lot of names, especially in the under 19s, that you can really make a case of them being called up to the men's team as early as this summer. And to use a very, very commonly used phrase, the future is looking very, very bright. I think that's a certainty. And given that I am going to go a bit chronologically myself, let's get into the men's team. The men's team that looked more active than they have recently by a mile. The men's team that looked a lot more like themselves, a lot more like the team that we know they can be. The men's team that looked very direct, very direct. It's been a while since, especially attacking-wise and consistently, we've looked this direct, and not that much wing-focused, not that much cross-focused, as if I'm not mistaken, let me actually figure this out. The crosses were around 20. Yeah, 24. Just 24. And I know 24 is still a bunch, but on a team focused like Olympiacos is, 24 is a good amount of crosses, especially since our opener came from a very well-placed cross at that. And the fact that we have seemingly, again, for the first time in a while, managed to go on and adapt around a defense that will give us the ball, that will sit back, that will protect themselves for a while, and then try and press on the counter after a low block, is a very, very positive sign heading into the playoffs. Like, there's one more game left. But the first thing I really want to focus on is that I at least, I was going to say the majority, but I at least was quite surprised by the starting 11, as of course we have Kostas Zoulakis under the 6, Ortega, Pirola, Rechos, and Rodinei. And then we have Nascimento Garcia. And then, of course, Dani Podens, Mehdi Taremi, Zelson, and El Kabi up top. I was more or less pleasantly surprised by the midfield. as we're seeing more and more of Diogo Nascimento, a player that's had a lot coming his way, and a player that's heard, honestly, a lot of unnecessary criticism, a lot of unnecessary hatred, perhaps. I would have liked to see Christos Mourakitis start this game, but with how things went, in hindsight, starting Nascimento next to Garcia proved more than competent against Toffee. And Nascimento wasn't bad. Nascimento wasn't bad at all. He was okay. We saw more of a good game from Danny Garcia, which again, I'm very happy about as we close off the season. But seeing Nascimento perform up to this level as we close off the season and people need to rest, I can't say I am anything less than happy with how things went. And of course, subs-wise, Costinha came in at the 67th. It was Lolo Scipioni at the 76th, along with Moussakitis. And then to end off, it was Chiquinho and Clayton. This is my main focus point for this game. This is the thing I'm perhaps the happiest about. We looked very active ever since kickoff. We looked more direct than ever, as direct as Mendy's team can be, if that makes sense. We took our chances, we created our chances, and again, it feels like for the first time in forever, we adapted. We adapted to how Offi closed up, to how Offi tried to use the counter to their advantage, to how we had the ball for not as big of a majority as usual, but how we still had the ball for a majority of possession with 59%. And honestly, it's the first time in a while where I felt like the team was confident. Of course, 5 big chances, 14 shots to Offi's 0. Offi didn't even sniff a chance this game. And honestly, more than happy. And the next thing that I want to point out in regards to my biggest positives, this. I don't know if the whole renewal process hurt him in addition to what ended up happening in AFCON. I don't know if it was solely a confidence issue and there wasn't really any doubts in his mind for the renewal. And I don't know if the renewal, well, no, it's clear that the renewal helped him, in my opinion, but I don't know if it was out and out the renewal process or he just needed his time and the renewal just gave him a boost. But he banged in another brace, which proved more than crucial in keeping the team not alive, because as I said, never really a threat, but in keeping the team in the driving seat and in true control of the game as he reaches 20 in the season, which is insane, by the way, because everything we've heard from El Capi, everything we've heard in regards to him having a dip in form once he came back, and adding to that the months of action he missed due to AFCON, you can only imagine how many goals he'd still have in the season, and we're still only in mid-March. And that's the thing with Elkabi. He now has 80 on the dot, and he's fourth in our all-time leading goal scorer list, behind, I'm pretty sure it's El Arabi in front of him. Let me actually check this out. I'm certain it's El Arabi in front of him, and I'm certain they have a 14 goal differential between them. Then it's Giovanni, and then it's Jole. Now, is there a big chance that Ayub El-Kadi even hits the 94 mark this season? Yeah, I really don't see, even if he doesn't reach 34, he'll get 10 more, because it's El-Kadi. He'll finish on a 30 goal season. So at worst, next season he'll be in the top 3, which is insane, because it goes back to my previous point of, if you take into account how many games Ayub has missed solely due to AFCON, which he's participated in 2, and I'm pretty sure he missed a month last time as well. So that's 2 months of normally scheduled action, which for Ayub could be 20 plus goals, which would hypothetically, at the very least, at this point, put him at 100, which would mean he would be in striking distance to be our top goal scorer of all time. It's unfathomable up to a rate what Ayub's doing, and it's nothing less than the correct thing to give him a contract good enough to write his own history, to continue writing his own history for the next couple of years and then some. And once the time passes, to have a statue built of him alongside Mendy and for him to retire an even bigger legend than he already is in his now true home. But moving on from that, I want to give a shout of respect to this man, Mehdi Taremi. Mehdi Taremi, that has been more or less going through a rough one. Rough patch hasn't scored in a while. I'm pretty sure it is a couple of months now, ever since Mehdi Taremi has gotten himself a goal. And he wins a penalty late on, after the 90th. And instead of taking said penalty, he gives it. And who does he give it to? He gives it to the man that very unfairly hadn't scored yet this season. He gives it to Christos Mouzakidis. And of course, Mouza goes up to take the penalty. Everyone in the stands is shouting his name. He scores. He celebrates with Mehdi Taremi, and rightfully opens up his own tally for the season, with more to come in the playoffs. But we'll get into Mouza in a second. It's not the first time that Mehdi Taremi has done this in the season. Earlier on in the season, very early, he did the same with Ayub El-Kadi, who hadn't scored in a couple of games. He gave him the penalty, and as harsh of a critic as I've been of Mehdi Taremi, because I've not heeded no one can ever go ahead and deny that he is a wonderful person, and it's clear that the chemistry he has with the team is immense. He's amazingly doing well with everyone in the squad. Even fans have said it, and no matter what goes on to happen, it's an honor when people and players like Mehdi Taremi honor the jersey, like he has not just in this game, previously as well. But getting on to the scorer, Christos Mouzakidis. Mouza came on late, relatively. He came on, let me actually recheck. Yeah, he came on with 15 to go for the very well performing, as we said, Dani Garcia. And he did his thing as he always does. Had a major accuracy in passes with 86, 6 from 7, and both the midfield like he always does, making sure the game stayed progressive, controlling the pace. And I will put out a question to all of you out there, because I never really understood why Mouza has been under scrutiny for a while now by quote unquote Olympiacos fans, and why people are gunning for a 20-year-old. The work Mouza has put in has been shining very brightly for over a year. The work Mouza keeps putting in will shine very brightly for a while. He's won what he has, deservingly so, and I will still die on the hill of saying that Christos Mouzakidis is one of our brightest midfield projects and prospects. I was going to say prospects, but both fit the bill ever. And I will still die on the hill that this kid's going to have an incredible career, an absolutely unbelievable career. Christos Mouzakidis is going to have, and we owe him more support than he's gotten this season. We really do, and I'm sure that with Mehdi Taremi's class act, he'll go on now and boss the game even more in the playoffs. But before those playoffs, we need to go out and beat AEL, because you never know what's going to happen. Because as we saw, and as I called it some episodes ago, Ike dropped points to Tromdos. And mind you, they almost lost. Ike aren't going to be a factor in the league. I've been calling it, and I'll stay on that. But I'm still hesitant on the power games. A lot of things have played a factor, injuries and such. And after the national team break, we need to go out guns blazing in the playoffs. We can't let nothing happen in the Pana games. We need to show up against Ike like we did the first time we played them this season, and we need to prove everybody wrong against PAOK. I am still of the opinion that, looking at it in hindsight, because I was down in the dumps in optimism at some point, but looking at it in hindsight, I'm still of the opinion that we are going to go on and win the league. And I'm sure this is going to get clipped. But I am of the opinion that we are going to go on and win the league. We just need to play like Olympiacos. We need to adapt. We can't just stick to a plan and pray to the heavens that it works. We need to adapt, be more unpredictable, perhaps, and take our chances. And again, knock on wood, hopefully, everybody stays fit until then. Because what is Olympiacos without injury problems? But yeah, moving on from the chaos of the Super League to the chaos of the GBL. I really don't want to analyze this too much. I'll get to the game in a bit. But I feel like I owe to put out some chatter in regards to what happened. Of course, we also the disqualification of Evan Fournier after he had an altercation with a fan. I knows if he is a fan, but yeah. And I have many a time said my opinion on court sitters in social media, mostly on Twitter, had some discussions on Twitter with both sides of the main fandoms, of course. That means us and Pana fans that are actually willing to have a discussion. And I am going to damn him that I am with Evan Fournier on this. And I am going to damn the hill that we need to implement, if I was going to take any rule from the NBA, it will be the forceful ejection of fans like that, because we've seen it many times in the NBA. Players can go up to the ref and say that he did this and said this, get him gone, and the fan would be ejected in the snap of a finger. The same thing needs to happen like that, but until then, and let me actually not get myself wrong here, because it really doesn't amount to anything. The color of the jersey, we've seen this many a time with people on our end, people on Pana's end, people on lower team's end, and especially with Panionios. Last year it was Sasha, Barzokas, God knows what Barzokas has heard. And Coach B said this the perfect way, in my opinion. He handled this amazingly. If you haven't got his post-game comments, do go look them up. I posted some of them myself. But the things that he shared in that stadium, same for the rest of the players, of our players, have been insane, to say the least. And people need to realize that going to the stadium isn't a forum to take out your own issues on the coach and the players, because they are humans as well, and humans will react. And people need to realize at some point that there is consequences to your actions. So I am 1,000,000,000% with Evan Fournier on this, and discussions open in the comments as always. And I am gonna put pressure on the opinion that rule, the ejection of funds, needs to be implemented here, because some stuff just needs consequences. And we really need to be checking people that are getting courtship tickets a lot more than we are. But I know that that's not that possible at this rate. But talking about the game, of course, there is one main reason that we did pick up the win, and that's Sasha Vezenkov. Obviously, everyone was shaken about what happened. performance was really shaky, but Sasha, on his return, pulled up with a 24-8-1 and got us over the line against a team we really shouldn't have struggled against, like to play both sides. But thankfully, we don't have to have that conversation. And God is Sasha. I'm going to prove how crucial he is every single time he plays basketball. And God, am I happy that he's back ahead of tomorrow's game. We will, of course, hold a post game either tomorrow or Wednesday morning to afternoon. We'll see. I'll update you all on that as the time comes. But with the forced absences due to the change of schedule that we will have at tomorrow's game, a lot of stuff would worry me a lot more if Sasha was still deemed unavailable. But with Sasha and with Thomas Walker back as things stand, I am way more comfortable with what will still honestly be a crazy game tomorrow. Don't get me wrong, it's, as the EuroLeague put it, the two best teams in Europe facing each other. And what Saras has built is sadly unbelievable. You all know my opinion on Fener and stuff like that. I'll get into it more when the time comes. But yeah, it's going to be a wild one, but we are at least not going to be out for the count before the first whistle even goes off. Now, moving forward with the weekend, and it's one of the most unbelievable, one of the most insane and consistently historic teams that I have ever seen. And of course, I'm talking about women's football, and of course, I'm talking about our own Lionesses, and of course, I'm talking about their, of course, championship and secure promotion. And people may have said, like, yeah, oh, they're gonna take it easier and stuff like that. Nope, they win 11-0 away from home. 11-0 away from home, as the record of no goals against still stands and will not be broken. Like, let's be honest with ourselves, as the goal differential is now 116. 116 to nothing. And the comments that I'm seeing, like, oh, they are a third division team, and it makes sense and stuff, and it's nothing impressive. I really want, especially opposition fans, I want you all to realize that this team is going to steamroll its way to the first division, and this team is going to steamroll the first division in and of itself. Like, this isn't a third division team. This is a first division team that's being forced to climb the ranks due to rules. This is a first division quality team. Hence the national team call-up as well, which people went insane about. And honestly, I can't hide my happiness about people already being mad that Olympiacos is taking over another sport. But focusing solely on the girls because they deserve the attention, I can't. I sound like a broken record, but I can't wait to see them in the first division. I can't wait to see all they do, the records they keep breaking and stuff like that. And again, all of them are ultra talented. but I have to throw out a name, and that name, of course, is Naya Benjamins, that now has an insane amount of 37. She has 37 goals after she hit another hat-trick, and she's gonna easily break 40. We are talking about a striker that is way past first division quality, that has Olympiacos in her heart and soul, and we're talking about someone that will not only help carry Olympiacos to historic moments, but a countless amount of championships as well. God, 37 goals is crazy, though. 37 goals is absolutely mental. But yeah, moving forward to another insane record, and moving forward to a derby in which we beat our favorite customers again. And of course, I'm talking about Olympiacos, Panathinaikos in the WPL, the Water Polo League. And I'm talking about the game that was another demolition. And I'm talking about the game that ended 14-8. And for those of you that don't know or that didn't see the social media posts and stuff like that, you need to just look. Let me actually find it. You need to just look over here to see our win tally against Panathinaikos, and the title tally is 74-0 for those of you that don't know. So yeah, after the cup final, I promise you all, you'll never see any of them post about water polo again. And to close off, as the women's volley league itself is closing up, Olympiacos, our ladies there, picked up a 3-2 victory in the tiebreak against AO Firas. And the next game is against Zaunki Fisias. And we have a lot of stuff to talk about in volleyball in general. But for now, I'm keeping that was a good win. And we're heading into a very busy week once again with water polo action, semifinals, and everything in between. I hope you all enjoyed another weekend recap. A solid 40 minutes. I tried to keep it as brief as I can because I know it's a bit of an overload of information, and I really don't want you all to just have your minds blow up. I hope you all are enjoying the extensive coverage because I want to keep up with this as much as possible. I want to give attention to all departments, Olympiacos, as many academies as I can. I know there is a few departments that I'm leaving out, and I do apologize for that. It's a matter of time until I actually manage to fit a schedule to cover everybody. But for now, I hope you all are enjoying everything that's coming, and I promise you all there is still so much more on the way. A lot of plans, everything and anything. I'm not gonna keep making promises, and instead, I will show you all that your support means way more than you think, and it will bring a lot of stuff. And just as a final parting message, once again, thank you for 450 on YouTube, and now we're just a very, very little amount away from halfway to 1,000, which especially on YouTube is unfathomable to me. But I'm sure we'll get there very, very fast. So as always, Thank you all so much.